You know what time it is. It's Synoptic time. This is a 2 vs 2 battle, TLG versus NofW clan. My teammate, aka Bushranger, is playing as Sweden, I'm playing as Prussia. Both our opponents, Serb and Nehemo, are playing as Austria on the map Bavaria, large cache, large unit settings. We're playing by their rules, the only rule by which is no artillery, so they're allowed to use the overpowered Windbusche Jaegers. After quite a long argument, but we decided to allow them. So we've done a video on Ferguson rifles. Now this time we get to do the other much hated one, the Windbusche Jaeger. Now alone they're not that hard to defeat, but when they're coupled with the other overpowered unit, the Grenzer, although they've been nerfed a bit, they're still very powerful units. I left one of my long-range rifles on the far left, only because I wanted to guide this whole area using their range of sight. They're able to spot hidden units quite well. I'll pop out some Windbusche Jaegers. There are more hidden. Actually, there's one here, and it's going to be shooting silently. You can hear it. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Now you can see it because of this silent weaponry. They can fire while hidden. Bushranger, on the other hand, found out where his opponent's Windbusche Jaegers were by using a Hacker, where most of them were located in this sector. The Hacker was used to attack these units from behind. I had one of my Prussian Jaegers take a shot at it. This has caused my opponent, Serb, to mount his assault. He's got 4 Grenzers on the front, and he's got 5 Windbusche Jaegers in this sector. Now I'm going to send my militia to do what they do best. You can see the amount of fire they've received. They've went from 120 to 57 in about 0.1 of a second. So I think they've digested too many bullets, and now they've had enough. Now notice with the green lines, now that they have shot their shots, I really have to mount my assault. These Grenzers have been nerfed in terms of their reload speed, but they're still fast enough to fire again before I get there. I have a heavy cavalry unit just to slow down the left flank, which I'm going to envelop as fast as possible. There are some cavalry units here. Nehemo has some units in assistance, a Grenzer unit and a militia. Now Bushranger sends a Hacker unit directly at the cavalry just to engage them, because it's a possibility that Serb might pull these units out. So if he engages them, they're forced to fight, in which my line infantry are coming up right now to take their shots at the heavy cavalry. So you saw them engage, and now they're going to run away with their speed. Shots have been made. I'm taking out those household cavalry units. Now I had Bosniaks located in the woods. I couldn't really show that, but they were approximately in this area where my mouse is. I send them straight at the Windbusche Jaegers to make this gigantic mound. Unfortunately, I will not be able to reinforce this area for some time. I have another heavy cavalry unit in what is creating quite a mess. This is why we use flags. If we didn't use flags, we had no idea what's going on. But I do have a heavy cavalry unit coming on the flank. Serb retreated 2 Ferguson rifles to provide covering fire. He's noticing my heavy cavalry units now. He does not have enough time to shoot them. So they're going to get hammered. This heavy cavalry unit will destroy those 2 Windbusche Jaegers without much trouble. And this heavy cav will then move into this fight here, demolish these units, and be swung around to continue the assault in the main fight, which is here. Notice the flashing flags, and all this melee fighting has resulted in ridiculous amounts of losses for me. And Nehemo had sent a fair bit of cavalry to assist, but so did Bushranger, so that kind of equaled itself out. With his assistance, Bushrangers, I was able to eliminate my opponent. I think he has some units left and is going to mount a retreat. As you can see here, I'm still continuing my melee. And the Grenzers are doing what I like to think is, I have a saggy vagina tactic and running away. And retreating tactics are quite good if you want to show your opponent that you are a wussy. But then again, our opponents are using Windbusche Jaegers. As my battle was happening, Bushranger versus Nehemo was kinda in deadlock. If either player committed to the other fight, the other would counter, which is why they're practically standing still right now. So after that assault, this is my army in all its glory and entirety. There really isn't that much you can do against a unit that can hide and shoot, walk and hide, and reload faster than a modern weapon. This reminds me of a player who once said, "It's not overpowered if you can use them too." My only response to that was, please uninstall the game. Bushranger has now conjoined with my pathetic forces. We're going to avoid this hill here, as well as the fact that our opponent has most likely positioned his Windbusche on the flanks. We've already noticed that with our first player, Serb, so it's most likely that Nehemo is doing the exact same thing. To no surprise, there are his Windbusche walking up on the flank. Unfortunately for him, there is this thing called land in the way, so we shot the land and not Bushranger's units. Bushranger is then allowed to collapse his flank, rendering that entire ambush useless. Foiling that attempt, this is also a great time for Bushranger to mount his assault, as we now know that all his Windbusche are positioned on a hill over there. So his units closer to me have now started to engage in melee. This is quite a cool pose by the captain of this unit, holding a saber way above his head. So they're charging at a Grenza unit, out pops out a line infantry unit, and there would be no doubt more units hidden in the woods here. There are stakes positioned. Here is a Windbusche. And so we're going to move in. I'm sending in my main forces, not much there. We've got a militia unit coming up in the middle to absorb most of the fire. As the melee on the left takes place, if we can take this flank, his entire position will be destroyed. And from our opponent's perspective, the left side of the fight, he is forced to give up his hill position and fight on even grounds where it would be particularly fair. And now we have melee from me against some Windbusche. It's about 100 men versus 24. For whatever reason, they're not routing just yet, but slowly but surely they will. So it becomes my objective to take this small woodland, as I don't have much left. Again, saying that again. Bushranger will be forced to take on the bulk of our opponent's army. Out pop out 3 Hungarian Hussars. Unfortunately, they have crap morale, crap everything. Bushranger has left a unit without fire at will on, specifically for this task. There are obviously cavalry units hidden, and he took some very big shots at it, as you saw. And one should be wavering at this point. Yeah, one's wavering. With their poor morale, they'll all waver quite soon. So from far away, 3 units of cav is always very intimidating, but when you realize they're very poor light cavalry units, it's not very scary anymore. And again, we have our militia doing their job. 2 units of militia getting hammered by Grenzes and Windbusche atop the hill. They're shooting. You can see some bullets flying out of the hill there with their silent weaponry. Next to my army, Bushranger is helping me by assaulting in melee. Again, knowing how pathetic line infantry are in fighting. But he has collapsed this area, which was assaulted by Hungarian Hussars. If he stayed in that position, they would have been under fire from Windbusche. They have the ability to rout a line infantry unit even 80 out of 120 because of the constant rate of fire. And seeming how those Hungarian Hussars were still in range even while collapsed, he was able to decimate them without the fire of the Windbusche. Now this is where we almost do a pincer by accident. It just works out quite well. It's just a coincidence. We're both mounting our melee on both flanks, and Bushranger is probably doing the most gutsy thing I've ever seen. He's running directly at the Windbusche. This is actually a very good move, but at the time it was very scary to watch because they shoot very fast, but not fast enough to stop a direct melee charge. These Windbusche advanced probably too far, and now they're on the run for their lives. If they stop moving, they will get destroyed by the bayonets. All the while, the middle is slowly falling apart of our opponent because the flanks have been cut down. So back on the right with the melee charge, Bushranger catches up to these units. Our opponent continuously tries to stop and shoot. That is his undoing. As you can see, they're wavering just after the charge. It won't be very good for them. There's no way they can maintain a melee against all that line infantry. So there's a pincer by coincidence, and I'm clipping the sides again with the remnants of my army. Main reason I want to stay out of to keep getting the middle is because he has surrounding units in the rear. Running at those would be quite suicidal. And seeing as our opponent keeps running away with those units, that just means that these same line infantry units can attack what's remaining in the middle. So it's practically lose-lose at this point. He's trying to regroup on this hill, but that only means they're going to be chased again. So there's not much left. There's a couple of Grenzes, a couple of Windbusche. and that is it. You see the rate of movement from these very tired line infantry at this point? Although there's still more than enough to destroy Grenzers, even in a slightly uphill charge. Okay, so what we saw there was huge cavalry disruption followed by a line infantry push on the first opponent, and the second one was melee en masse, both of which can be quite effective against armies like that. However, there are massive losses either way. Good game to Bushranger, Serb and Nehemo, and hopefully after 1.4 I'll never see an army like that again. Thanks for watching.